Hi everyone! If you've noticed the title of the video, this video is going to show you how I've made a marble floor for my art gallery space in my doll's house. There's a couple of other little bits in this video too, so here are my Christmas decorations, because I'm feeling quite festive at the moment, so I thought I'd just include these. And I've also, well, I've not done it. My characters that live in my Tudor doll's house have also been putting their Christmas decorations up. You might have seen my little stop motion animation that I uploaded as a short the other day. It's not the best it could be, I know that I could improve, but I really enjoyed making this, so you might see a few more of those in the future. But for now, I'm going to be working on this doll's house in this video, and I had planned on doing lots of Christmassy miniature makes in December because I thought I'd be a lot further on with this doll's house than I am. But obviously, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I've had to take a little break from doing crafting. But I am now okay to start crafting again, which means that I'm really excited to get started again with this doll's house, and I feel like I've got so much to do. So, right now, here, you can see me measuring up because I wanted to try and cut out the flooring that I was going to use to make the mezzanine level. So if you've watched my previous videos, I'd removed some walls and some flooring, and I'm adding a mezzanine level where the bedroom's going to be and probably a bathroom too. And then I'm going to have a staircase that comes down to the level below. And the wood that I'm using here is some thin plywood that I bought from a craft shop because I had just the last bit of a gift voucher left to spend, so I decided to use it for this piece of wood. But thank you so much to everybody who in a previous video left some recommendations for different types of thin wood that are good for using for doll's housing, because I have read through those and I saw some types of wood that I hadn't heard of before. So once this piece of wood has run out, I am going to go back to those comments and I'm going to have a look to see if I can buy any of those different suggestions of wood. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not, but my cat sat on my knee and she's purring really loudly, so if you can hear a funny noise, it is her purring. My microphone's got a setting so that it kind of blocks out the background noise, but I kind of hope that you can hear her because it's such a lovely sound. For this piece of wood, I had to cut a rectangle out and then I had to cut two little tabs out because the walls of the doll's house kind of have an edge at each side that it needs to fit around. So as you can see here, if I didn't cut the tab out, the wall wouldn't be able to push into the alcove on the right hand side. I don't know if you can see in this footage, but one edge of this piece of wood was quite rough, so the reason I turned it round and redrew these tabs was because I decided to have the smoothest edge of the wood at the front of the doll's house where you can see it, and I'm putting the rougher edge against the side where I can add a little bit of filler and make it nice and smooth. So this floor is going to go about here, and I plan on having some bookcases underneath it that are kind of floor to ceiling that will hold it in place. I was really happy with that measurement there because it lined up so nicely. So obviously for putting the bookcases in place, I actually need to have this flooring down first. But the little landing area at the back there that I haven't been able to remove when I removed the staircase is raised up by probably about ½ centimetre. And I was going to build a little kitchen around this space so that you couldn't see it, but actually in one of my previous videos I showed that I've decided to put the kitchen on the left hand side. So this means that I need to cover up this raised area. So I decided to make a false floor. So I had some foam board and I thought this would be nice and easy to cut, but it is so hard to cut. There must be a way to cut foam board neatly. Is there a particular tool? Does anybody know? Does anyone know how to cut foam board? Because one side of it, sort of going in one direction, cut really smoothly and perfectly, but the other side, as you can see here, just wouldn't go straight at all. yeah, it made a real mess. It doesn't matter too much because, oh, and I actually slipped there and cut a bit by accident. But it doesn't matter too much because those edges I will fill and make nice and smooth. But yeah, if anyone's got any tips on how to cut foam board, I would love to learn. So I made a false floor and put it there, but I'm not going to do anything else with that bit at the moment because I actually then made a decision to move on to the flooring on the very bottom of the doll's house where I plan on putting a miniature art gallery. So if you've watched my Tudor doll's house makeover, you will have seen that I made a stone flooring for the kitchen. Now I've thought about a lot of ideas for this flooring of the art gallery space, and I've considered having it as a concrete floor. I've also considered having a wooden floor. And I've considered having a wooden floor that's been painted white and then sanded down to make it look as if people have been walking across it. But in the end, I decided that I wanted a floor that looked a little bit different. I wanted to try something new because I'd done the wooden flooring throughout my Tudor doll's house. So I wondered whether I could make sort of some shiny marble stone flooring. In this video footage here, I'm basically experimenting because I wasn't sure how to make flooring that looked like marble. I mixed some yellow ochre paint, some acrylic paint with some water, and I put it onto a plastic sheet. The plastic sheet is just some packaging that something came in. So I then mixed up some filler, which is from a DIY shop. Obviously, if you're doing anything like this yourself, please do read the instructions on the box. Don't just follow me because I don't know what I'm doing. This is an experiment. I was making it up as I was going along. So I thought maybe if I spread some paint out over the plastic sheet, it might swell and create a marble effect. And then I thought if I poured the filler over this, it might sort of capture some of the swirling paint underneath it. So that was one experiment. Then I added some more filler to the plastic sheet and tried swirling the paint around in it just to try and make that swirly effect that I wanted. And then for a third experiment, I tried adding some PVA glue to the filler mixture that I'd already made. And I also added some more yellow ochre paint just to try and change the colour a little bit. But I didn't add all of this paint in and then mix it in well. I kind of folded it in to try and make those swirly marks that you see in marble. I also put some white paint into this because I wanted to try and make sure that the yellow ochre wasn't quite so dark. I was hoping that by mixing this with PVA glue it would get more of a shiny finish to it, like a nice smooth piece of marble would have. And then the next thing that I had to do was leave it to dry in a place where my cat couldn't go and sit on it. So I had to find a way to move this, and I wish I'd considered this before I started. Right, so this was the polyfiller after being left. Sorry, I keep saying polyfiller. I think that's a brand name, but it's the filler. Obviously there's lots of different brands available. I left this to dry overnight, and it was nice and smooth on the side where it had been on the plastic. But as you can see, first of all, it was quite delicate, which is fine, but I needed to be more careful than I was. But as you can see, there's none of the paint that had swelled below it. I don't know where it's gone. I don't know if it had pushed out to the sides or you just can't see the paint, and you couldn't see it on this one either where I'd swirled it in. You can see some ripples where the plastic was a little bit wavy. Oops. Okay, so this was the one which was mixed with the glue, and then I'd folded in some of the colours of the paint. And it had made a nice swirly design. It wasn't as shiny as I expected it to be with the PVA glue, but I really liked some sections. I don't know if you can see on the top of it, the yellowy bit is translucent, because I don't think that bit's got any polyfiller in it. Oh, sorry, filler in it. I think that's just got the paint and the PVA glue. So it was still a little bit wet, as you could see. But I really liked that effect, and I thought that could probably make some really cool flooring for the art gallery space. So I decided that I wasn't going to just pour the filler straight onto the floor of this doll's house, because if it went wrong, I don't think I'd be able to get it back out. So instead, I needed to make another false floor to go down here. So I checked to see if the piece that I'd already cut would fit, which it would, so I decided to use that as a template, and I drew around it on my spare bit of foam board. Again, I lined it up so that the edge that you'd be able to see at the front was the straight edge that I wasn't having to cut. As you can see, when I tried to use scissors to cut this, they cut the first bit okay, but then I couldn't get any further with the scissors. There must be a tool for cutting foam board. Obviously I'm using the Stanley knife here, please don't copy me because I don't know the safest way to use it. So it didn't fit straight away, I did have to trim it a couple of times. Unfortunately, I did trim it to the perfect size and then made the decision to trim a little bit more off and ended up with a really rough edge that doesn't quite meet the side of the wall. So at some point I'm going to have to work out how to fill around the edge of this piece of foam board to bridge the gap between the foam board and the wall. Now, when I made up this mixture, I think I added too much yellow ochre paint. I also forgot to add any white paint, and I had added some white paint to the initial mixture when I was experimenting. As well as that, I think that I should have added a bit more yellow ochre to fold it in rather than mix it in. So all in all, this mixture to me looked far too yellowy in colour. But I thought that I would still apply it and see how it went. I found that using almost one full paper cup full was just the right amount to cover the whole of the downstairs floor. Of course, marble doesn't come in sheets that are the size of a full floor, so I do need to make a decision about whether I want to score in some marks to make it look like individual stones, or if I'm just going to leave it as one whole floor. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Due to the fact that it was looking a little bit too yellowy, I decided to add another layer with some PVA glue and also some white paint. And this time I really tried to make sure that I folded in that yellow ochre paint instead of mixing it in. There wasn't a huge difference, but the white paint definitely was better. I added a bit of the yellow ochre directly to the floor there just to try and swirl it around a little bit more so that it was more defined in some areas. When I try to neaten up the edges where the floor meets the walls, I don't know if I should add some skirting boards or if I should just use some filler to try and fill the gaps. What do you think? Do you have any suggestions? I'm not sure if skirting boards would be the right thing really in an art gallery. I definitely need to do something to make it neater, and I also need to repaint those white walls because I'm sorry Mum if you're watching, but I got a little bit of this mixture on your freshly, newly painted walls. I also added a little bit to the front here, but only a really thin amount because obviously the door still needs to be able to shut. And at some point I'll think about what to do with the very front piece of wood there that's green at the moment, because I'm going to have to make that look like a little pathway, I think. I'd love to know what you think about the colour of this floor. I am a little bit concerned that it looks like sand and it looks like the beach. Obviously it's a little bit messy at the front there, so I will be sanding it down when it's all dry. And I could see a little raised edge here in the corner. I think that once it's fully dry I might have to have a look and see if I need to stick this foam board down to the original floor. So I put my original piece of foam back in place here, and just before I move on, I want to mention I am considering leaving a gap like this and having a look to see if I can get any battery operated lights so that I can make some little spotlights that shine down into the art gallery below. And this is where the mezzanine will go, but I think I might need to add foam boards to the mezzanine level now because that piece of wood looks really thin in comparison to the other floors. And I was considering putting a landing here on the left, but I don't know if I'm going to have room. I've got lots of things to decide, but I think that the first thing before I start adding those extra bits like the landing and the stairs is that I need to decide what flooring to have in that apartment. So as you can see, I made quite a mess. So I decided to have a little tidy up. And of course, this flooring now needs leaving to dry for a very long time because that flooring that I was just picking up off the floor because I dropped it, that had been left for pretty much a day, but some of it was still a little bit wet. So this floor, which has a lot more coverage, is going to need leaving for quite a while. So this is what it's looking like. And of course I need to paint the inside wall of the door that opens on the doll's house, and I need to also be thinking about putting a door in the side of the apartment because at the moment there's no way to access it. I need to do the window frames, I would like to redo the brickwork and the tiles on the roof, and I need to put the external staircase in place. I need to do the chimneys, maybe some aerials on the roof and some pigeons. But I'm pleased with the progress that's been made so far, even though I'm not as far as I would have liked to have been by this point. I was hoping that this would all sort of dry nice and smooth, but you can see some ripples in it. I was thinking that because it was so liquidy, it would kind of run into a nice flat area, but we'll have to see when it's fully dry. Now, I know that this isn't a doll's house that I'm doing here, but I wanted to just show you a little bit of my artwork that I've been doing recently, just to finish the video off. I normally split my art and my doll's housing into separate videos, but recently I've been doing quite a few craft fairs. So I had my first one and then I managed to book onto a couple more because I found it so fun. I have another fair on Saturday, and I've just done a new picture which is of some sheep and a horse, and I actually saw these sheep and the horse, and the sheep was stood on the top of the hay in amongst all the other animals, and I thought it was just absolutely delightful, so I took a picture of it and I went home and drew it. So this print is now available on my Etsy shop, and the cards are available too. And sorry, I've got the shadow in the way there. going over the card. But yeah, just I thought I would tell you just in case you wanted to have a little look on my Etsy shop. And my last date for posting within the UK before Christmas is next Tuesday. So yeah, just a little advert there for my own shop. But I thought I'd mention it just at the end of the video because I know that some people are interested in art as well as miniature making. So thank you so much for watching, because I know that this video has had quite a few different things in it. It hasn't just focused on the marble floor, and obviously we will see how that marble floor is looking in the next video. I also am still going to put the columns or the pillars in the downstairs area in my art gallery, and I need to make a decision about whether they are going to be metal and painted black maybe, or I might cover them in this same mixture to make them look like marble pillars. What do you think? Please let me know. I am hoping on Sunday to also have a painting video, so hopefully I'll have time to put it together by then, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching and have a lovely day.